welcome once again to the video. In this one I'm just going to have a little chat about what my thoughts are about F1 halfway through this spring break, if you like, before the Miami Grand Prix. Have a little look at some of the things that are in the news, F1 news. Just give my very basic thoughts from a fan's perspective as ever. This little ball I'm holding, by the way, is just something for me to play with, basically, whilst I talk. But I could claim that it's F1 related, I guess, because it's a globe, and F1 is a global sport. Where's the next race? The next race is happening just there. I'm sure you can see that in Miami. But yeah, it's just something for me to play with during the video. So, what do we have to talk about? There's not a lot in the news, it has to be said, even though it also has to be said that once we get to Miami, that'll be extremely exciting, more exciting than it would have been had there not been a spring break, of course, because of the changes that may well have happened. I shouldn't really call it spring break, I guess. That's what they're sort of loosely calling it in the F1 world, but it sort of trivializes the reason for the break, which I won't go into because that's all politics. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm not trying to trivialize the cause of the break. Right, so we do know that F1 are going to try and see what they can do with the rules, which is good. Of course, the basic rules, they can play around with a few things, like they can change what kilojoules of electricity can be charged per lap, that sort of thing, to either try and increase or reduce super clipping, that sort of thing. But the cars are the cars, basically. So the teams can also look at tweaking certain things on their cars. Russell has said that Mercedes are going to try and sort out their slow starts. See if they can match Ferrari, because they're all going by the same regulations. But the thing is, Ferrari have got a small turbo. Mercedes have got a big turbo. So, they're not going to be able to change the size of their turbo. So, I'm not sure really what Mercedes can do. All the teams are slow at the start compared to Ferrari, the Ferrari cars, in particular Ferrari. So I'm not really sure. I don't think a lot's going to change there either with the rules. There will be little tweaks that the FIA will make to do with where you can harvest and where you can't harvest and all that sort of thing, but I don't really think there's going to be much of a change, really. Something that the FIA have stopped, though, is, I didn't know this, but Mercedes engined cars and Red Bull engined cars were performing some kind of shutdown thing on their MG UK. The part of the power unit that sort of basically turns energy into electricity power. And you're allowed to shut it down for emergencies at times. I didn't know this was going on with these two teams, and I don't know what kind of an effect it'll have on their performance, but apparently they were shutting it down. Was it just in qualifying, or was it in the race as well? They were shutting down the MG UK towards the end of the lap so that there was no limit on the kilojoules of energy that were blah 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 blah. I'm sorry, I get exasperated talking about and trying to understand all the battery talk, battery chat, as I call it. So I'd rather sort of move on from that, really. Basically, Red Bull and Mercedes engine-powered cars have been stopped from doing something with their MGU-K, which could well have benefited them in some way, basically. So who knows what that'll do. What I like to talk about quite a lot is Adrian Newey, of course, and the nonsensical role of team principal. Is he temporary? Is he not temporary? If he's temporary, then why is he still there? We're coming up to round 4 in the championship. Newey is still there, supposedly inspiring the troops with his Winston Churchill-style speeches, which, of course, no, he isn't, because that isn't who he is. He's the nutty professor out the back, doing wonders with the car. And let's face it, he needs to do wonders with this Aston Martin. Although I think he's even gone on record as saying it's nothing to do with the car, it's all to do with the engine, which again is not what a team principal would say. A team principal would not go on the defensive like that, but because it's his car, because he created the car, he's being really defensive about the car and has sort of pointed the finger at Honda. A team principal wouldn't do that, because a team principal wouldn't have designed the car themselves, and the team principal would know to keep everything smooth between all parties. So it is a total farce having Newey as a team principal. Absolutely ridiculous. Of course, we've got Jonathan Wheatley has left Audi supposedly for Aston Martin, but he's on gardening leave for a year. So is that what they're going to do? Is Newey going to be the team principal at Aston Martin for the whole of 2026 and going into 2027 as well? I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Not good for Newey. Not good for the team. Deary, deary. But who wants to jump in and be team principal of Aston Martin right now? Who wants to do that? Certainly not Gian Piero Lambiase, GP, who has left or will be leaving Red Bull at the end of 2027. That's a bit of forward planning there, isn't it? So at the end of 2027, Lambiase is leaving Red Bull and going to McLaren and I had to look this up, had to confirm it again because these titles are pretty meaningless. He's going to be the Chief Racing Officer. What's a Chief Racing Officer? Different to a race engineer? He was race engineer to Verstappen at Red Bull. Now he's going to be a Chief Racing Officer, which apparently is part of the role that Andrea Stella was doing. Andrea Stella is the team principal, so why was he Chief Racing Officer? A lot of the time these teams just make up titles just to get the person into the team. If there's no specific role for them to do immediately, they'll just make one up. Chief Racing Officer. If they wanted to squeeze someone else into the McLaren, because McLaren are taking lots of people at the moment, they could maybe have a Chief Officer of Racing, couldn't they? They could have a Chief Officer of Racing who is separate to the Chief Racing Officer. Or what else could you have? The Racing Officer Chief, did I say that? I can't remember. Officer of Chief Racing, I said, didn't I? But you could have the Racing Chief Officer as well. And you can play around, you can move around these words, they often do that. So, yeah, Gian Piero, they're saying, that might make Verstappen leave Red Bull. That might make... I think that's the last thing anyone should really be thinking about. I mean, it's more likely that Verstappen will leave F1 altogether rather than just leave Red Bull for somewhere else because of Lambiase leaving. And I wouldn't care if Verstappen left F1 anyway. I wouldn't care if Hamilton left. I wouldn't care if Norris left. They're individual drivers. So I'm a little bit surprised sometimes when people talk about worrying about a certain driver leaving the sport. There's so many good drivers in F1 now that when a driver leaves, they're instantly forgotten about the next year. No one talks about them. Nico Rosberg said that. He said when he left Formula One, no one, he wasn't moaning about it. He was just pointing out the fact that, you leave and then you're gone. And he said the following year, 2017, no one was talking about him at all. And yeah, as I say, he wasn't complaining about that. He was just saying that's the reality of F1. So if Verstappen was to retire, even at the end of 2026, in 2027, no one would care. So what? Why do we need any single driver in F1? And I'm saying that if it was Hamilton as well, or if it was Norris or Russell or any of the British drivers, I would say the same thing. The only time I was ever a bit distressed, and I was a lot younger, I was 19 at the time, and that was in 1990 when Mansell retired from F1 at the British Grand Prix. I was there, and the retirement that he had was the final straw for him, because he would have won that race had it not been for all his gearbox issues. I think it was gearbox, probably. And his teammate Prost was just winning race after race with no gearbox issues. And I think it just got to him. And Prost, sure enough, went on to win that race. His third win on the trot. Whereas Mansell was just having car problems after car problems. So he retired. He threw his gloves into the crowd. Did he throw his helmet into the crowd? He definitely threw his gloves into the crowd. And he announced when he got back to the pits, that's it, I've retired from F1. I was distressed about that because I knew that he should have been world champion more than once in his career. And so therefore the retirement was a bit sad. But he then unretired when he got an offer from Williams and then won the championship in 92. But that's the only time that I've felt sort of regret. It's not me retiring, so I don't know if regret's the right word, but you know what I mean. It's the only time that I've felt sort of like a retirement shouldn't happen, basically, or I felt a bit distressed about a driver retiring. Raikkonen's got all this GT stuff that he's doing at the moment, isn't he? He could well leave. Yes, he has said that he's frustrated with these new cars, but let's face it, as everybody is saying, drivers will always be more frustrated the less well they are performing, basically, or the team is performing. So if he's not winning races, he's going to think this new formula is terrible. He certainly didn't think it was terrible. Well, he did initially in 2022, or at least he thought his car was terrible. And then he started dominating and winning, and then there was nothing wrong with the regulations at all then. Now, he doesn't like the regulations again. And Hamilton loves the regulations simply because his Ferrari is doing better. But also it does suit Hamilton's style, and maybe last year's cars did suit Verstappen's style of driving more so. Hamilton certainly likes as always talked about, not liking the ground effect cars. I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think Verstappen likes a car that's more planted, whereas Hamilton likes a car that you have to sort of muscle into the corners a bit. Anyway, so what else was I going to tell you? Oh, Russell, yeah. Now that's classic. Russell is showing absolute classic signs of, fear over his teammate and respect. This is great for Antonelli. Russell is respecting Antonelli so well now, because before Russell could only say good things about Antonelli and was saying, "Oh yeah, my teammate Kimi, little Kimi, He's doing really well. It's great to see him up there doing really well. All last year he was praising Kimi. What a fantastic guy he is. Love him. He's great. And at the start of this year in Australia, plucky Antonelli getting in there for second place. I love my teammate. He's great. But that's because Russell was crushing Antonelli for the whole of last year. And then at the very start of this year in Australia, well, he didn't crush Antonelli, but he did beat him. But last year he crushed Antonelli in Antonelli's first year as a teenager. Now, suddenly, Antonelli, yes, he was lucky in the last race. Russell would have probably won, either Russell or Piastri basically would have won the last Grand Prix. 50-50, I think, on who would have won that race. But Antonelli, the best he would have got maybe is third, had it not been for the safety car. But still, Antonelli has shown that he is very much so right there, just like Piastri suddenly came good last year, threatening Norris. Suddenly the same thing is happening now. Now, I know why Russell has been grumpy of late, because he thinks that he's not grumpy because Antonelli is doing well. What he said he's grumpy about is the fact that bad luck has affected him more so than Antonelli. Well, the bad luck is never going to be equal, I'm afraid. You have to see how it pans out over the whole season. It may well be that Antonelli will have a retirement in Miami. You just don't know. I can understand a driver being distressed if race after race after race they're getting all the bad luck and the other person isn't. And that happened with, unfortunately, Mansell in Williams in 1987, where he just had endless bad luck all throughout the season. That was a terrible year for bad luck for Mansell. People think that 1986, in the final race, when Mansell retired with a blown tyre 16 laps from the finish, when he would have won the World Championship because he was sitting in a comfortable third place. 16 laps from the finish, his tyre blows up and he loses the championship by 2 points to Prost. Yes, that was extremely unlucky, but over the whole season, his bad luck and Piquet's bad luck and Prost's bad luck and Senna's bad luck had pretty much all evened out. What's terrible is when the season is, all the bad luck is on, it seems to be on one driver. And that was certainly the case the following year in 87. But here, there's only been 3 Grand Prix. It's too early for Russell to be moaning about getting the lion's share of the bad luck. There's only been 3 races. And really, the only bit of, he had a little bit of bad luck in qualifying in China because he could only do 1 run in quali. But that's very minor bad luck. He still qualified up there. Second place, didn't he? Then he lost some ground due to the Mercedes having to pit at the same time, I think. But basically, it's all very minor bad luck, that is. Really bad luck is when you have you're way out in front and your car breaks down 5 laps from the end. That's really bad luck, As happened to Verstappen in Azerbaijan 2021. Leading the race comfortably, 3 laps from the end, one of his wheels comes off, or one of his tyres. Was it a wheel? I think it was the whole wheel, wasn't it? It just came off. That's proper bad luck, that is. But this shows how Antonelli is getting to Russell. Russell should not be getting distressed 3 races in. He's already won one of them. And the other 2, he's been 2nd and 4th, I think. Plus he won the sprint race in China. This is not the time to start talking about who's getting the most luck. Because it will just affect him. If he's thinking like that going into Miami, that's going to affect him. So he just needs to chill out and realise that the most likely thing is that the bad luck and good luck will balance out over a 22 race season. But it really does show that Antonelli is getting to him. It's great respect for Antonelli, because if you like your teammate and you want your teammate to remain your teammate, that isn't respecting your teammate. Hamilton always wanted Bottas to stay as his teammate, yes, because he knew that he could crush him underfoot. Verstappen always wanted Perez as his teammate for the same reason. It's an insult, basically, if your teammate wants you to be their teammate. That's a massive insult. So for Russell to be a bit distressed at the moment, even though he's not mentioning Antonelli in his grumpiness, he's talking about his bad luck. Clearly, if he wasn't worried about Antonelli's threat in the championship, he wouldn't be bothered about Antonelli winning in Japan due to the safety car. It wouldn't bother him if he wasn't starting to think that Antonelli is a real threat to the championship. So well done, Kimi. As a teenager, you've managed to get your more established teammate to be fearing you, basically. I still think Russell is the favourite for the championship. Of course he is, he must be. And I do think he should comfortably beat Antonelli in the championship. Remember, Patrese had the jump on Mansell in 1991, but as soon as Mansell got into his stride, the two Williams drivers, as soon as Mansell got into his stride, he just pulled away comfortably from Patrese in the championship. Apparently there's no restriction on the work that can be carried out on the cars before Miami. There's no restriction, but of course it's still within the current rules. Everything is within the current rules. Let's just hope that any tweaks that the FIA do are not tweaks that the teams could have done something about with their cars, but they didn't find out about the tweaks until a couple of days before the Grand Prix in Miami. Let's hope that any of those sort of tweaks are announced quite quick. I think the FIA had a meeting or something last week about this sort of thing, but I haven't seen any announcement of anything apart from Mercedes and Red Bull not being allowed to do their MGUK shutdown thing. But yeah, in theory, the teams can be touched, basically. So things can be done on the cars that would not be allowed to be done during the summer break. There's no forced lockdown in order to force the teams to take a break as well. The teams can work every day during these 5 weeks if they want to, 24 hours a day. You know? But all this battery chat, it is a little bit annoying, isn't it? I just wish we could go back to the old days where for qualifying you had quali tyres, which were just faster compound tyres. You had two tyre compounds. You had a quali tyre and a race tyre. That was it. There was no C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, and isn't there a C6 now as well? Which then got converted to that silly terminology that we had for a while, where you had super softs and ultra softs and mega deluxe softs and premium mega deluxe softs and all that sort of nonsense. They did the right thing to get rid of all that terminology and just have C1 to C5. And then 3 tyres, and then there's soft, medium, hard. Yes, that simplified it. Because sometimes you would have the ultra soft would be the hardest tyre in the race. It's ridiculous. But so that's one good thing they did. But I wish we could go back to just having a quali tyre, 1 compound for qualifying, 1 compound for the race. And that was it. So you would see the ultra fast times in qualifying. And on these super duper fast quali tyres. They got rid of them because they thought they were too dangerous. How long ago did they get rid of those? Ages ago. 20 plus years ago. Quite a long time ago. And then during the race, you could decide maybe to go the whole race. You didn't have compulsory pit stops. You could go the whole race without a pit stop if you wanted to. But you'd have to look after your tyres a bit, obviously, to get through the whole race. Whereas someone else might think, I'm going to gamble and have a pit stop halfway through, lose 30 seconds, but I'll be on fresh tyres when I come back. Still the same compound tyre, but just fresh. So then you're faster than that guy out front because you're on fresher tyres, not because they're a different compound, just because they're new. And then you could go flat out to try and catch that person. Would that person who didn't stop be able to hold off the person who did stop? And it was as simple as that. I loved that. So there was tyre management, but it was very simple. It was just someone staying out without having a pit stop, or only having 1 pit stop instead of 2, that sort of thing. And they would stay out. and see if they could hold off someone that had stopped for fresher tyres. But I wish we could go back to that. But I do look at the past through rose-tinted spectacles. I realise that there were some pretty flat races when I was a kid. But I just loved looking at the cars, more so now. There's so much F1 on TV now that it's less special to look at. But when I was like a teenager, or in my early 20s even, it was so exciting just watching even if it was just a McLaren out front dominating, Senna and Prost just dominating. I still found it exciting because it was difficult to see any F1 any other time. And there was a lot less coverage, no practice, no qualifying. For the non-European races, you would have half an hour highlights at about 11 o'clock at night, that sort of thing. In fact, my first experience of watching the US Masters golf tournament was tuning in for the highlights of the Brazilian Grand Prix in 1987. But there was a playoff between Greg Norman, Seve Ballesteros and Larry Mize for the Masters. And so because of that, the highlights were delayed. So I ended up watching that playoff, waiting for the highlights to start. And it got me interested in the US Masters. And now every year I watch the US Masters. Because of 1987, waiting for those late night highlights to start. I was only 16, but I was allowed to stay up because even though it was a Sunday night, because it was F1, basically. And yes, I could record it on VHS tape, but that was very unreliable, the VHS tape recording back then. So you never knew if it was going to chew up the tape or something. So anyway, I am massively digressing. Yeah, so let's hope that when the season kickstarts again, we'll have maybe a bit less battery chat. Yeah, I mean, all the talk about Bearman's accident, that's all battery chat as well, isn't it? To me, at first, it just looked like Bearman, and I said it on the video, it just looked like Bearman had made a mistake and had gone in too hot, basically, around the outside of Colapinto. But then, of course, it ended up being about batteries. Colapinto was recharging his battery, so he was going slower than normal. Battery, you know, dearie me. I don't mind it aiding Formula One, but I don't want it to be Formula One, you know? Okay, that's me done, I think. So that was a little chat, wasn't it? Not much in the news, I have to say. Anyway, so thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to subscribe to the video, or the channel, I should say, please do so. Or like the video, or comment on the video, or leave a tip on the thanks button below the video. Not that I did much in this video. But basically, thank you for watching. And I'll see you on the very next video, which may well be another Formula One video. I'm filling this gap with all Formula One videos, basically. So, there you go. Is that going to stay still? Oh, no, off it goes. See you later. Off he goes. He's gone. He got bored. It's nearly been half an hour. Thank you, and see you next time. Goodbye for now.